We're doing about 1,500 units a year, and we're currently scaling up to about 3,000 in the next 3 years. So lots of fun things going on here. And yeah, one of three ski manufacturers left in the country that can make the claim that we do everything under one roof right here in the USA in an ethical way.
Hey guys, how you doing? $100 million podcast today. This is John Klein. I'm here with a $100 million guest, Mike. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, doing fantastic here in Denver.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Mike, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself to the audience here. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Mike McCabe. I'm the co-founder, current owner and operator of Folsom Custom Skis. We're a custom ski based manufacturer here in the USA that's done tens of thousands of custom skis for people across the planet, from celebrities to hardcore skiers to beginner skiers and anybody in between. What we do is we build everything under one roof, which is right behind me here in my private 10,000 square foot manufacturing facility that I've bootstrapped and built from the ground up. And we're executing every layer of the cake to actually build these things to the end user. So what we're customizing is the total performance package, really dialing in the geometry, the length and the shape of the ski, the components that we're putting in there with the different types of wood materials, composite materials, plastic materials, whatever it may be. And then right down to the aesthetic, you can make the skis look however you want. We're doing about 1,500 units a year, and we're currently scaling up to about 3,000 in the next 3 years. So lots of fun things going on here. And yeah, one of three ski manufacturers left in the country that can make the claim that we do everything under one roof right here in the USA in an ethical way.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Uh, Going business growing hard, and sounds like you guys have a good trajectory for growing in the future. So super excited to hear about kind of how you guys got started. What is your strategies for how you guys got to where you are right now, and your strategies for growing, like you said, these next 3 years. So different plays like that. But I'm interested. How did you grow up? Tell us a little bit about where you grew up, how you grew up, and what was your first job.
Sure. So I grew up in Loveland, Colorado, about 45 minutes north of here. Grew up skiing, clearly. My family's always had a house up in Winter Park, up in that area. So I grew up skiing there. Um, really had a just fantastic upbringing with one older brother and a really loving family that fostered creativity and the ability to dig into these sort of projects and feel confident moving forward with them. That said, my first job was something that really gave me a lot of foundation for what I do now. I actually worked for a plastic injection molding facility out of Fort Collins, which is just about 20 minutes away from where I grew up. And so what we were doing there, and I started that job really as a preteen through my teens, what we were doing was building like quick disconnect lures for IV tubing, different really intricate injection molding plastic pieces. And then I also started to work for another company that was under the same ownership umbrella, that was building composite replacement pieces for unmanned kind of drones and aerobatic airplanes. So I had a really, really robust engineering background through high school, and then went to college at CU Boulder. Let's go Buffs, ski team here. And actually studied something that wasn't really too applicable for what I'm doing now. I was ecology, evolutionary biology with all the prereqs to go to med school, but quickly realized that I was not really cut for going in that trajectory, and launched this company right as I got out of college in 2008.
Wow, that's awesome. So you said, what are you, a pro, or what is that? Right? Like a
Yeah,
ski
yeah.
pro?
So I was, yep. So I grew up taking some, traditional kind of pathway through some freestyle and some different programs there. And then through my college career, I broke off and was a sponsored skier and was skiing on the professional freeride tour. So I was doing the IFSA and FWT events, which are like big mountain freeride events that are really really have taken off in the last couple of years. They were kind of a pretty new thing when I started it, really in like '06. But that's what really gave me the foundation to want to start this company is just I happen to be a bigger guy in the ski industry, kind of regular big guy. I'm 6'2", 200 pounds, not huge, but your average skier is like 5'8", 140 pounds. And that's pretty conditional that you see through the free ride realm. And so I just had a knack for not having product last very long for me and was just really disappointed with the longevity of the skis that I was getting and recognized that there was nothing like what Folsom does today on the market when I launched this in '08 to have a custom offering where it's actually building skis to the end user rather than just going the traditional method of building a product line, pushing it out through a bunch of different marketing and hoping it sells. This is really us, offering something that's very, very unique to this industry. And we're one of the first to enter the market with this kind of option to really build what you want and, just have a quick dialogue about who you are, what you're looking for, what you've been skiing, what the specific use case of the ski is going to be. And then we just knock it out of the park for you.
That's awesome. So as far as the business kind of startup, you had the experience with skiing because you were a pro skier, and then you also had a problem. And from the business standpoint, you found a problem that there's not really a good solution for at the moment. So you decided to solve that solution. But so you had manufacturing, injection molding experience before. Tell me a little bit about that experience, and then how that kind of transitioned into you pretty much making your first set of skis.
Sure. So really when I was working at the plastics facility, it was just an early introduction into CAD CAM. So I was doing some technical drawing, working behind a computer to kind of map out the parts and then actually deploying them on the CNC software, utilizing the CAM software to yield the parts, create the tool paths, and actually seeing how all that worked. So that really gave me a really solid foundation to build what I've built today. As this company, I always kind of say it's kind of a funny way of looking at it, but the way that skis are built is really a very interesting blend of old world manufacturing and new school robotics blended, and you really need to understand both of those things. So at a high level, I had a very good understanding of how to execute parts really precisely, replicatable, and do that through CNC software. And then just through my general foundation of really flipping homes while I was in college, that was my primary job while I was going to college in CU Boulder, was I was a punchless guy flipping homes. So I was just, a general carpenter doing everything from tear down to, actually swinging a hammer, setting the studs, doing all the trim work, all the electrical work, all that good stuff. That gave me the foundation to start really looking a little bit deeper at how skis were built and understanding, the wood, the composite, the different types of plastics, the steels, all the different materials that need to get stuffed into these things and laminated together. So I always do say the first pair of skis that I built with my, at that time, business partner, Jordan, it cost us $100,000 to build our first pair of skis. We bought CNC equipment. We bought a full woodworking shop. We set everything up in an 800 square foot garage about 2 blocks away from Folsom Street. That's where the namesake Folsom Skis comes from. Folsom's the iconic street that runs all the way through Boulder. And, the big stadium's called Folsom Stadium, et cetera, et cetera. But we had more power pulled to the garage than we had pulled to the house to deploy and run all these different types of pieces of equipment. And frankly, at the time, there wasn't really education behind ski manufacturing. So it was a lot of just using these different methods, understanding how to build the parts, how to build the molds, how to put them all together, and then really a lot of guess and check work to start pressing skis and start getting them finished up. So I think it took us about 15 to 20 pairs before we had a usable product. And then from there, we refined that product really quickly. We really started this in the tail end of '06 and took around 2 years before we felt like we were ready to come to market with, a really, really good solution, a really good product. And probably about 200 pairs of skis were built before we actually hit the market of just teaching ourselves how to do this. Cause again, this was, 18 years ago, before there was so much easy literature and videos and things to just go find on Google and YouTube, we were just really on our own trying to figure it out, doing some redneck engineering and a lot of self-taught stuff that got us to where we're at now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So when you guys man, 200 skis. So what's the like investment, like the money investment? Obviously, I mean, that's like straight up, you guys are inventors talking about, how many times did you fail where you were like, oh, I just want to quit this, it's not going to work. But you knew you guys had a good trajectory, you knew what you were wanting to do, and you knew how profitable it could be. Tell me a little bit about that, like profit calculation, like why did it take 2 years? Why did you power through those 2 years? And like how much time and money did you spend on initially kind of the learning phase until you guys actually went to market?
Yeah, so it was probably close to about $250,000 spent up front with material sourcing, prototyping, getting all the equipment, getting everything kind of sorted out, really deploying a fair amount of skis out into the market to be tested before we did hit the market. So that's a pretty clean calculation, around 250K that we put into that from 2006 to 2008. Um, you know, we didn't see that recession coming at us, as I'm guessing not many people did. And we launched in November 2008, which created a very, very difficult launch date for us, especially being new kids on the block. The ski market is very tribal. It's very, very like recidivism based. So once somebody kind of wins your purchase power, from a macro brand, it's really hard to convince that consumer to peel away from them. So the first couple of years were really, really difficult just to keep our heads down and not seeing enough sales, not seeing enough revenue coming in. But once we got over that hump, really at about 2011 is when, the cash flow started to make sense. And at that point, we were still only building around 300 skis a year. It was still a relatively small operation. But we had invested heavily in the infrastructure to grow the company slowly and responsibly over time. That's kind of an interesting thing to note about the ski industry is it is just hands down one of the most competition rich scenes you'll find. Everybody and their brother that was a professional skier is going to want to start a new ski brand. So every year there's a new kid on the block trying to, flood the market with new latest and greatest technology. And what we wanted to do is just completely different than what anybody else had ever done before. We wanted to really start small and just let the market take us where we needed to go rather than just have projections and be like, okay, we need to be at 500 this year, we need to be at 1,000 this year, et cetera, because we needed to build the foundation of this brand. Which is one of the most difficult things to do in this industry, is to have the wherewithal to really hold on for a lot of time to be essentially a household name in the ski industry, which we are today.
Why did you pick, being that it's, so competitive, it's hard to go up, all these different things, why did you pick making skis as your business model? Because as you said, I mean, it's just a lot of competition. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time and resources to really break in the door and slow, steady growth. You feel like it's just because like something you knew really well, you're very familiar with it, and you liked it, or you actually think that you had kind of a unique selling proposition. So you're like, hey, look at this money potential, or was it more like, hey, I really like skiing. I know I can make a better product, and this is what I want to do.
More the latter. I mean, this is truly a passion project, and that stays true to today. I mean, this has, been my life's dream for many, many years. Really, as like a late teen, I started to really hone in on skiing and just wanted to build my life around this, build my life in the mountains, and try to figure out a way to make a living behind it. I think another thing that just really is important to drive home here is I grew up in American manufacturing. I saw that from a very young age. I realized, that overseas manufacturing is really just, it serves its purpose for a lot of different types of consumer goods. But something like skis that have so much personality and honestly are a pretty expensive product really should be built more similar to how like surfboards are built. You don't see a lot of overseas manufacturing in surf, the surf industry. It's really local builders for local breaks and local people. And we wanted to kind of bring that passion and idea to this industry to really be able to hang our hat on like, look, we're doing less, we're doing better, we're doing it in the US and we live and breathe this stuff. We're in the mountains every day. We're out skiing, testing all these things. And for lack of better terms, I never wanted to bring this product to market with a bunch of bells and whistles that were just a bunch of marketing jargon. It really wanted to just be a very fundamental approach to serving a market that I feel like was quite underserved and really being sold a bunch of junk that was just unnecessary and just had a bunch of marketing buzzwords behind it that didn't really hold up over time. So that's really it was a passion project. I wanted to do it correctly here in the USA. I wanted to have a slow approach so that we could really build the foundation of the brand, really earn the respect of our consumer, and really earn the title of industry's best custom ski builder. And now 18 years in, we're really at that where we can go out anywhere. I go skiing all over the world all the time. I was just in Europe last March for a 10-day trip in between France and Italy and Switzerland. I saw a whole bunch of my skis over there. And, I went and talked to a couple people and they're like, oh yeah, Folsom skis, some were French, some were Italian, some were US travelers. And, I didn't lead on to who I was and just kind of let them give me their spiel about the skis. And everybody's like, yeah, these are the best, man. Like if you really care about this sport, like invest in it and get the right stuff. You're going to go spend $10,000 on a ski trip. Why would you undersell what you're going for and get the right product? And I'm like, oh yeah, great to meet you. My name's Mike. I built your skis. So it's cool to like now know that we have that foundation and strength behind us. Where the market, which is again, it's a really tribal market. So I understood that up front that we really had to have a pretty slow entry to this to really earn that respect, get that third party validation. And now that we're 18 years into it, it's time to ring the bell and really start growing this thing.
That's awesome. So you guys are all over the world. Um, and that's so cool that like you're going into Europe and people are having your skis and they're talking so highly of you and that's so cool. Do you feel like because again I'm born and raised in Florida, I've never seen snow and in you're right, the surfing market, which is I'm very familiar with. I know a lot of different shapers and stuff, and it is very much local guys for local breaks. Every beach is different. I'm assuming every mountain is different. How the snow lays on it, is probably different per area. I'm assuming. Being that like going going bigger because you're selling 3,000 units a year. It's a lot of units, and especially like, are you selling just in Colorado? How many people are repeat buying the SKUs? How big can you really get this? I mean, I know the ski market is huge, and so you guys really focusing when you're doing your marketing on Colorado first, or you also go to all the other ski places? That's kind of a loaded question, but
Yeah, no, I mean it's a fair question for sure. I mean, our market share in Colorado's relatively large. It's probably 30% of our total units that we're selling per year. And then outside of that, really the biggest market that we appeal to is travel skiers, people that are going and doing those iconic trips, whether it be heli skiing in Alaska, heli skiing in BC, really unique POW skiing in Japan, intense mountaineering in Europe, all these different things. So, we have really tailored to that end of the market as well. And those honestly are oftentimes people that are living in middle America that have no ski resources around them and they're just travel skiers because they're like, well, we could go out to Colorado, but why don't we go up to AK and spend our money here or whatever? So a lot of our market has been just kind of finding who understands the quality of the skis, who understands the customer service quality as well, which is another just like leaps and bounds above any of my competition is just how much I know about each client. If I sell one ski, I've got an entire list of exactly what we did, a huge note category that I'm keeping just on the personal logistics of this person, family dynamics, who they're skiing with, where they're going, all these different preferences. And for that reason, my repeat buyers are nearly 100%. Like once I earn a customer, they almost never fall off. And if they do, they usually come back a year or two later and are like, hey, sorry, I cheated on you and I tried these other skis. And guess what? They kind of didn't last. And, I had a bad experience with a retailer, blah, 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 blah. Let's get back into bed here. So, it's been a pretty interesting, kind of schooling to figure out, who that clientele was. I can't say up front we really knew who it was going to be. We did try to focus on the market in Colorado specifically, but realized just putting all your eggs in that basket wasn't going to be the, most smart thing to go with, and really just started to diversify it and started realizing that skiing just touches so many different economies. It's everywhere. Like we sell skis to the weirdest places all the time. Just for example, last week we get into this feast or famine happens with this business quite a bit. As you can imagine, once, lifts are spinning and the snow is flying, demand goes way up, and then all of a sudden you have all these people calling you and they're like, hey, I've got said trip on said date, can you get this done? And we can build skis so quickly, we can literally have a custom ski out the door within 3 days if we need to. As much as we don't love to do that, and I don't love to do that to my team, we can do it and we have to do it often. And so last week, for example, I had 7 expedited skis leaving from this facility that all got started on Monday and all shipped on Friday. All the sales kind of happened on that Monday. They got built through the week, shipped out on Friday, all of them overnighted to their respective owners. 2 of them are in Japan right now. 2 of them are in BC right now. 2 of them are in AK right now. 1 of them's in Europe right now. So like I have to kind of remind my team when we're going through this period of time where it's just like full hectic madness, trying to get everything done, trying to play, chess with all these different pieces, and then hoping that, UPS holds up their end of the bargain and actually overnights these things to, Oakland, Arkansas, wherever I'm shipping these skis to, and actually gets them there on time. And then a day later, I'm getting pictures like, boom, here's your skis in Japan. I'm like, boys, we built these things literally 4 days ago. How cool is that? Now we got skis literally all over the world. So it's a pretty cool thing. And, again, I got to kind of like pull my team in at the end of the day and be like, hey guys, remember what we're doing. Remember how fun this is. And remember how much we're enriching these people's lives with giving them such quality stuff in such a quick execution, which really no other company can make that claim.
Yeah, especially not custom. That's like super quick. When you guys start off, what's your advice on starting small, just launching to the local? How do you get that marketing? Is it word of mouth? You go up on the ski slopes, you're like, hey, look at my skis, I made these. Do you want some? How do you kind of start getting your initial sales?
I think 10 years ago, that was the approach, was kind of that guerrilla marketing, word of mouth, get some local influencers in your market on your side, people that are skiing at your local resorts to rep your product and be out there every day talking about it and really just kind of spreading that net in that way. Today, it's just a totally different ecosystem. Everything is just digital based, and you really just want to put a lot more infrastructure behind, having really accurate ad spends, having compelling, honest content. I think that's something that's another thing that I kind of keep touching on here is we didn't want to have just another marketing brand here that was like, okay, here's another ski company that's built overseas in that same factory that builds all the other skis. And then here's our marketing jargon. We didn't want that. We wanted honest messaging to our clients that really told the story of like, here's what we do, here's why we do it, and here's why you should buy skis from us. And that really is a slippery slope, not to make a joke there, but it's a slippery slope to, navigate that and make sure that content is getting pushed out in the correct way. Yeah, really now with the scale that we're at, and we've been, really kind of plateaued through COVID. COVID had this very unique effect on the market where essentially there was a massive spike in demand as all the closures happened. And this happened across most outdoor industry stuff. So bike, it happened, skiing, it happened, camping, fishing, you name it. Everybody kind of had this same trajectory where when the closures happened, demand spiked because everybody's like, well, I guess we can still go outside. So we'll try this. And what ended up happening was all the manufacturers that are on the macro side levered up for that giant spike in demand. And then factory closures happened, shipping delays happened, all this inventory that got swelled massively, then got delayed, specifically making it to North America. And everything showed up on the market in the tail end of 2021, early 2022. And it just created this wrecking ball of price disparage where you were just finding brand new equipment for 65% off mark right away, which is not good for anybody. And so for those reasons, I saw this coming, and I kind of just tightened my belt and kept my production numbers pretty similar. And I was really just relying on word of mouth. I was relying on my clients being my salespeople. They always are just, probably by the time I look back at my inbox, by the time we're done with this, I'm going to have 3 or 4 referrals sitting there. And it's all from clients that have had good experiences. I've earned their trust, and they bring me to somebody else and say, hey, meet so-and-so, take care of them. I know you will. Boom, boom, boom. And so now on the downside of all this inventory kind of clearing out from the COVID blip, this is when I'm really starting to kind of dig in and start to scale this business up because a bunch of companies went out of business. There was a ton of ski companies that didn't have the wherewithal to kind of last through these last couple years. And for better, the consumer really got a pretty solid education by just seeing this and seeing like, oh, wow, really all skis come out of these same factories. None of this stuff is really what they thought it was. It's all just marketing jargon. So I see a ton of opportunity coming out on the other end of this. Another thing to note here is tariffs have actually made us a hell of a lot more competitive. So we're built in the USA. I only bring in 2 pieces of material from Europe. Everything else is domestic. So my price increase versus the next guy coming from Asia or Europe is nothing comparatively. So now with my retail end, so we do mostly custom skis. We also have a retail line called our Signature Series line, which sells out every single year. I'm looking to really invest in that and really grow that quickly. Is now my prices on my retail line are cheaper than most European and Asian skis, which is the first time that I can actually do that and go, hey, look, built in America, support
And
us. And
built in America and more affordable and better.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm looking here. So I'm looking at your website here. You have the suggested construction types. You have the standard, which is the bamboo, the coral, and then the maple. Is that poplar? Is that the name?
Popular, yeah. Yeah, it's just a really fast growing hardwood in North America here.
Okay, and then you
Yeah.
have the 100% carbon fiber or the 10% carbon fiber. Now you go all the way up to the tour level. So tell me a little bit about standard skis, how you guys function, your upsells and different things. Because obviously somebody can come on your site and get a really nice, just solid custom ski. And then how do you, as a business owner, pull the different levers for increasing your average order value? Obviously, your customer service and your quality increases your LTV for more repeat customers. So tell me a little bit about the strategy there.
Sure. I'd say like kind of the easiest way that I look at this, it's kind of an interesting approach, but the customer's not always right. Oftentimes they're really wrong because they've been sold the wrong things for years and years and years because the macro market's going to be stuffing the more expensive stuff down your throat that oftentimes isn't the better choice. For example, carbon fiber. Carbon fiber serves a purpose. You really only use that to reduce weight in a ski. And that's for a ski that's intended to be walking uphill for a long period of time and then skiing softer snow, generally for ski touring. Carbon fiber doesn't vibe well for resort style skis. It's just not, it doesn't have enough heft to it. So that had been oversold in the market in a pretty heavy way for a lot of years. And you'll get these consumers that are coming to you and saying, hey, I need this. And it's like, well, no, you actually don't. And here's why. So back to what I was saying, the consumer isn't always right. Unfortunately, the customer has been sold the wrong thing a lot, but you always want to put them first and you want to make that clear to them. Hey, I'm only going to upsell you on this. And the only reason I'm going to upsell you on this is because it's just a more expensive material if it's conditionally correct. So that is something that we take a much different approach on than any other company out there. And it kind of tacks back to my no marketing jargon BS. I really want to be honest with our customer up front. Like, hey, yeah, you can go pay more for this, but honestly, you're going to have a worse experience on it. If you're going to be doing this, and this is 80% of your use case on this ski, you should use this material because it's actually better than that material. And so, when it comes to add-ons, I'd say some other big things that we're just really paying attention to and where we can kind of, bring revenue up a little bit, bring that margin up a little bit. Bindings are a simple add-on for us, and I do not negotiate with those things. I sell those for full market every single time. I never discount them. I only source X amount of them for each season, kind of to understand that I'm not going to run into a inventory surplus. And that's a big one where I can just always have that replicatable margin where I know that's going to get baked into the sale. We're also really transparent with shipping. A lot of companies just say, okay, free shipping on, any order over $300, whatever it may be. Guess what? That shipping is getting calculated somewhere. So we're just honest about it and like, hey, look, okay, you need these things overnighted to Oakland tomorrow. Like, you get to pay for that. It's just another way to just make sure we're hedging our bets on all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we're just not in the game of like, hey, you need this material because it costs more. We're going to tell you, you need this material because it's the right choice. If it does cost more and it's the right choice, then so be it.
Love that. Love that. So how do you get into when it comes to you talking about ad spend, marketing, what is your right now kind of target audience? Are you going after really solutionable people that are ski a lot, they know about skiing, they're educated, and they know that okay, you guys are the better choice for them? Or do you find better kind of return on investment when you're going after um I'd say net new skiers, kind of beginner skiers, people that
I'd say our bread and butter right now is family skiers. So you get, a parent on the hook, and guess what? Then you got significant other, you got two kids, you got this whole funnel that then is touching a whole bunch of other skiers because they'll talk amongst each other. I happen to be a new father. I've got a 2-year-old and 4-year-old boy, and I saw that really quickly with how much communication these different parents were having amongst themselves about like, well, what are you using for your kids? What's your wife skiing on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the family skier is certainly the bread and butter of what we do. And also another thing to note there, I'm living it right now. 2 working parents, 2 kids. I got no time, man, like zero. My clients, same. None of them have time. Most of them are pretty high level at their careers. Most of them in their late 30s, early 40s. They don't have the time to be digging into these 1,000-word reviews about these different skis and all these different things. They just know like, oh, Mike knows exactly what he's doing. I can have a quick 20-minute dialogue with him, tell him what I'm doing, tell him what my wife's doing, tell him where my kids are at. Boom, we're set up, we're dealt with the season. It's easy. So yeah, that's really the bread and butter. And what I'm seeing with, the highest return on customers right now is that family dynamic is crushing it. And then again, I mean, those travel skiers, Those guys have deep pockets. You know, a bunch of them are just spending tens of thousands of dollars on just heli trips. And a lot of them are just buying a different ski for a different trip, specifically because they just want a different aesthetic. Oh, I'm going to Japan. I want some Japanese, flavor graphic. Oh, I'm going to AK. Let's do something that's kind of got an Inuit, flair to it, whatever. That's another just big return that I see. And once you get these guys, they're always moving targets. They're always sea level, dudes, and they just roll in groups. And once you get one of them, boom, you got a bunch of them.
Mm. And yeah, what I like about your business again, or any kind of business that's, let's say like luxury, like boating, the people that do most of the time, the people that are into boating and boating, they have money to be able to, you know, invest into their hobby and stuff like that. Like big fishing guys, they have the money to be able to invest into it because like sport fishing is expensive. So I'm gonna say general fishing. I'm saying like sport fishing specifically is very expensive, and so it's easier to sell that person a product because they have the money and they're already interested in doing it versus somebody that is maybe new or doesn't have the money. So you're in a very cool kind of like golf too. Um, People care about the quality, people care about the performance and all these different things, and they tend to be people that have the money to be able to even buy it, so you're not having to negotiate on a $1,500 skis because they just know that's how much it costs and that's how much their hobby is, um, which is really cool. Do you feel like the ski market is growing right now? Do you feel like you've just kind of been stagnant, kind of same amount of skiers as it always been? It's kind of regional, or do you feel like more and more people are getting into skiing?
It's still growing. So really right around 2010, 11 or 12, somewhere in there is when the scale tipped. So snowboard was growing at a faster clip than skiing for many years. And then as ski technology really levered up massively, made, soft snow skiing more fun, park skiing more fun, general all mountain skiing more fun with all these new technologies. All these people started coming back to skiing, and now skiing is all of a sudden the cool kid on the block again. So that said, the ski market is growing. It's growing pretty quickly. Um, it's hard to nail down that calculation. I've got resources to be looking at that, but at least especially in my neck of the woods here in Denver, Colorado, 3.2 million people in the greater Denver area. Mostly anybody that's coming here is coming here to go recreate in the outdoor space. This is growing off the rails. Colorado specifically. You look at other markets that I do really well in, the Salt Lake market, Park City market, Sun Valley, a bunch of these different ones, they're growing quickly, and we're just trying to capture that as best as we can. Um, but yeah, it's been growing for a number of years, and I don't see that declining, even
Mm,
with what's going on in the climate. This has been the worst ski season in Colorado on record. The closest one to it was 1983, which happened to be the year I was born, and I guess this one's significantly worse. So
is that because
it's
of lack of snow, is what you're saying?
lack of snow, man. Yeah, we're about 160 inches lower than we should be right now. And
Um,
like it was 72 degrees in Denver on Christmas Day. Looking outside right now, again, it's mid 60s. It's weird and warm and dry right now. But that said, with who I'm appealing to, the people that are going to be skiing no matter what, the families that are getting their kids out there, the travel skiers, the weekend warriors. I've got all kinds of different ones. They're skiing no matter what, and it hasn't affected my season. Whereas I'm seeing the retailers around us are really, really suffering right now.
yeah. Tell me about snowboarding. Why don't you make snowboards? Are you thinking about making snowboards?
We will. And I've said that for about 4 years. I will get into it. The reason I don't is I'm a skier, pro skier, high level engineer at it. I understand it through and through. I understand all the nuance to it. I understand how to build a very quality ski. I'm not a snowboarder. I think I really need to be honest and call a spade that once I do enter the snowboard market, I'm gonna have to bring somebody in-house that lives and breathes in that space, and I recognize my time is fleeting, and I don't have that time to be that guy. So I need to make that relationship. I need to understand really the nuance behind what makes a special snowboard. And I need to have, a champion in house that can really own that space. The main reason I do want to enter the market is I do a ton of B2B stuff, whether it be like some white label stuff for beer brands, distilleries. I think I actually got a distillery sitting over my shoulder here. We do a lot of those, and they'll want like, okay, I want 10 skis and 3 snowboards, and I have to push those snowboards to somebody else. I should be capturing that business. I can do that. I just need to have the time to approach that and be confident in what I'm doing. So that's the reason we haven't approached it yet, is it's a whole nother sandbox to be playing in. And we don't have enough time right now. And I don't have that guy on my team quite yet. Frankly, one of my main business partners, if he listens to this, which I anticipate he will, I always say he was such a good skier. He skied himself into a snowboarder because he blew his knees out so many times. And like snowboarding's hard on your knees, but it's a different load. So you can kind of get away with snowboarding. If you've been skiing for a long time, you can shift in that direction. And he just took that pill and he's snowboarding like a maniac. And I'm like, sick, you're going to understand all this stuff. I'm going to be able to talk to you. You're going to be able to like know that market, know the shapes, know what's good, know what's not and why, and then give me a really honest, conversation on how we can build a better product there.
Yeah, I've never tried skiing. The one time, and I've only tried it on fake snow, but I tried the snowboarding, which I thought was fun. Ate it a couple times for sure. But I hear skiing is more, well, two totally different sports, you would say. Really, I mean,
It's insane how much different they are. I have snowboarded a few times. I do all the other board sports. I surf, I skate. I spend a lot of time wakeboarding, doing stuff like that, but it's just a totally different thing. And snowboarding generally from just an entry is a little bit easier to learn up front. There's just more moving parts with skis, 4 edges, 2 feet moving separate directions, a little bit more to control there. So it's easier to stand on a snowboard and have fun right away. Whereas skis, your progression is going to be a little bit slower, but once you get it, and this is why a lot of people are coming back to this ski industry or the end of the sport, it's a way better motility across the mountain. Being bipedal is really important to be able to just walk around and like get to where you need to go. Having poles to move you across flat sections. Snowboarding is you're kind of handcuffed to like, okay, I can go downhill and then I'm stuck. With skiing, you can be traversing and moving and skinning and doing all these different things that really just opens up the mountain in a different way. And again, now that technology has gotten so good with the different binding types, the different ski types, all these different mediums of snow, whether it be soft snow, terrain parks, whatever, have honestly become more fun on skis once you've gotten good at it. It's kind of similar to golf. It's easy to go out there and just hack it up and have fun, but it's really hard to become a master at it.
for sure, for sure. Tell me about the business strategy you have going to these next 2 years. You're getting in a getting some new machines. You was telling me, and you're getting bigger spaces and stuff. Tell me about some action plans you have right now.
Yeah, for sure. So, actually, a fun thing to note here is I'm going through my first round of funding ever, 18 years in, which is kind of, an interesting time frame to be doing this. But with what I was saying about kind of coming out of COVID and seeing all this opportunity on the plate, and I know this market through and through, now's the time to take off a bite and really do it the right way. So, I'm raising just over $1 million to really just give me the runway to go through this transition to one, build a brand new cutting edge facility. So I'm in about 9,000 square feet now, and we're just packed to the gills. All our inventory, all our equipment, it is just full house. We don't have space. Everything's on wheels. You got to move this over here to work on this. Electrics, overwhelmed, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm currently building a new space just about 10 minutes away from me here over in Broomfield, which is going to bring me up to 13,000 square feet. Going to have ceilings that are twice as high so that I can inventory up. Going to build a new fancy showroom that's got floor to ceiling windows that are looking out over the shop floor so you can actually see the whole manufacturing space from the showroom. I've already acquired some high level robotic equipment. So some of these ski companies that have tanked over the last couple months, a couple of them were just, you know, flying fast and loose and spending money like not reasonably and buying really, really expensive equipment, not knowing how to deploy it, and essentially running themselves out of business. And then all of a sudden, this equipment is tied up in a facility and there's only a handful of people in the country that know how to do this stuff. Luckily, I'm one of those guys, so I was on the upside of that. I extracted a whole bunch of robotics out of a defunct ski company just back in September. I have a couple of those things already operational in my shop. I have a couple of those sitting over idle at my other shop to account for the growth that we're going to be going through. And then another big deployment of this cash is we're really going to be stepping into having a robust marketing budget that's established through the year. This has been for the 18 years I've been in business, my marketing budget's kind of been a fly by night sort of deal of like, well, okay, we got 6 to 10 grand we can dish over here, 5, 10 we can send over here. It was never really put together in a yearly strategy with a yearly budget where we could have a person managing that, deploying it, tracking it, showing us what's working, showing us what's not working, adjusting it, moving forward. And then, like I was saying as well, with us becoming more price competitive, specifically in the retail realm and maintaining a direct to consumer approach, um, we're going to be levering up our production on our retail side. So right now we're doing a couple hundred retail skis a year. Those just sell themselves. They come in at $7.99 to $8.50 depending on the product. And like I said, that's like even if not lower than most of your macro brands right now. And so that's low hanging fruit. That's a low hanging fruit for us to scale that up, build that side of things, get that into the 1,000 number quickly. And then what that's going to do is start to fill the funnel on the custom side so that the custom funnel kind of fills caps for the year. And that pricing is going to have to kind of go on a slide up as well, just to account for our growth. But yeah, long story short, that's kind of the big picture of what we're doing with the new facility, new equipment. I'll be buying a couple new different plotters and CNCs just to refine some processes. More people, man, like that's another big thing is just there is a bit of a seasonality blip in this thing. We're building skis all year, but we do have some soft months from cash flow where I have to, kind of lay some people off and then have to go find some new people and start over. So that's going to be another thing is just having, a bigger core staff that's set up that can be moving through this, move through that first uncomfortable year of swelling up that retail side of things. And then that financial modeling that I've put together should be throwing off some pretty solid cash once we hit those numbers coming into year 2 and 3. Um, Other things that we're doing, kind of tacking back to the family dynamic. Um, we do a junior trade program, which has been super successful for us, where essentially we have about 150 junior skis that range from 120 centimeters up to 154. They're designed to have your kid enroll at about age 6 or 7, and then their exit's going to be from like 14 to 16, depending on their size and aptitude. And all it is it's a seasonal rental. So we just build really badass skis for these kids, put fun top sheets on them, actually have something that's not available in the mass market. And it's just a season rental. So $250, you get those skis for the season. You can pass them out through the season if your skid's growing, free tunes throughout the season, good service. But guess what? That's brought that family to me to where the parents get here and they're like, oh, wow, look at the rest of the stuff you do. Yeah, of course I need skis. Yeah, she needs skis, blah, 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 blah. So we're now targeting specific programs to grow these programs much quicker. So I'm working with the Winter Park Comp System. I'm going to be working with Vail. I'm going to be working with Team Summit. I'm going to be working with Team Eldora, all these different groups that have that next generation of skiers that are looking for good solutions, and parents that don't need to go waste their time trying to figure this out. Once they're enrolled in my system, I keep all the literature on that kid. I've got height, weight, likes, dislikes, etc. And then come next season, it's like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just use my kids, for example. Weston's ready for this. Hudson's ready for this. Here you go. Easy, done. So just kind of that white glove approach to growing that and having that reasonable, responsible growth that I'm looking to do over the next couple years. And that said, going from 1,200, 1,500 units a year to 3,000, that's a big jump. But in the total ecosystem of how many skis are sold every year, we're still less than a percentage. We're tiny. So the market's ready for us. Honestly, where we're at right now, I can't keep up. I can't build skis fast enough. There's not enough of me out there to be able to, you know, take on what I can. Some other fun stuff that I see on the edge of our growth is we've been doing some really unique stuff for some drones. So just because we're like custom and we can build anything, we get these weird requests all the time. And I had a drone company that builds these giant 250-pound drones that go and fight fires. So they're wild firefighting drones that get deployed, fill up with a bunch of water, and then go put out a fire that much quicker than any human being or aircraft can get to it because it's just rapid response. And so what I've done is I've built this landing gear system that's essentially just a modified ski. That's another thing that like now I'm contracted with this company. They just got funded. Their orders are flying in and I get to build all these skis. So that's another thing that's just like another kind of interesting, side project that we're doing right now that I see a lot of growth in.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And like, if you did start making snowboards, would you have to get different equipment, or is it pretty much the same?
It's pretty much the same, which is small changes. So I'd have to create some tooling and some stuff in house to be able to build the molds and stuff like that, and then kind of change the way we're doing our wood cores, width of our composites, stuff like that. But generally, it's a pretty even crossover. Um, I have built snowboards in the past, but nothing I really was like ready to push out to market, just kind of for friends and family. Like, yeah, sure, I'll do this and see how it goes. That said, it's a pretty easy retool, but the reason I want to be, very careful entering that market is I want to make sure that there's no, you know, uh, ethos lost in what Folsom Skis is when I move into the snowboard market. I want to be the best at it and I want to be confident that I can be.
For sure, for sure. And I like that you're looking for drones and stuff. I mean, anything. Really, you guys are a production facility, so the drone stuff is interesting. I was listening to a podcast of Lucky Palmer.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, and
Draw.
Andrew,
Yeah.
and he's saying that a lot of the stuff that he's making is able to be made in like car manufacturing, any kind of manufacturing within the U.S. Um, and I always think that's cool. So like, a facility like yours could, one day be able to make certain different things if needed. Uh,
That's actually it's interesting you brought that up, and that's something we did through COVID. So I have insane equipment. I have, insane ability to kind of pivot trajectory quickly. So as COVID came in, none of us knew what the hell was going to go on. And what I saw was a huge opportunity in building PPE. So we ended up utilizing our equipment and we just pulled in a bunch of plexiglass and started building these really simple plexiglass dividers for point of sale operations. So any kind of restaurant, any kind of retail space, any kind of different space that needed some kind of physical shield in
mm,
between the client and the person checking them out. We had these nifty little things that we just machined on our CNCs and they just went together like a little Lego project. Boom, 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 click together. Boom, you got a point of sale. We sold thousands of those things and built thousands of those things. And honestly, it was a fun little deflection from what we normally do, and that's one of the many things that keeps me fired up on this project here is just how versatile we can be. I mean, I did all the separation stuff for Regis University, their entire food court, A bunch of their like athletics, they had to have like these boxes essentially set up for the referees and coaches and stuff like that. I had to build all this really unique stuff which I could just execute quickly. Yeah, I was just saying that we did all of the protection to get the University of Regis, which is just down the block from us here, back up and operational. So I did their entire food court. I did all their different athletics to allow them to actually run games with referees protected, all these different things. So that was just kind of an interesting illustration of how quickly we can pivot and the different things that we can approach. And this drone project just happens to be kind of a fun, derivative of that, where it is more ski driven because it's essentially a modified ski. But that's something that I'm finding as time goes on is we really just offer such a versatile product and have so much robust manufacturing ability that we can just do all these different things so quickly.
Because you got to do like in the future, like drone wings and different things, blades.
100%. Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah, tell me about your marketing plan for these next couple of years. What percentage are you doing for the retail? Are you going to be doing um, having guys go out or you yourself go out making these connections and stuff like that, getting into these retailers, and then promoting people towards the retailers? And then how much are you doing like online sales? Because I would assume that your online sales, you're better off promoting the custom, not like say the entry, the 799 skis. You're more wanting to do the online sales for custom stuff.
Yeah, so really with levering up on the retail side of things, we're not going to be going into retailers. We're going to say direct to consumer the whole way through. So that's a space that I've tried to get into and I just haven't found success with it. It just puts us in a crowded space with a whole litany of things that I don't want to be involved with. I want to just sell direct to the consumer directly through us, whether that be in person or web based. So as we scale up the retail side, the Signature Series line of skis, that is going to become a very large component of the business. That's going to turn into the 75% units that we do, whereas the other 25% will go as custom. Whereas right now, that's opposite. I've got 75% custom, 25% retail.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so the retail, not actually in retail, but you were mentioning retail earlier, so there's some low-hanging fruit that you're doing a couple hundred of. What are you talking about if not in a retail store?
Uh, my retail line is going to be through my web store and my in-person store and my new showroom. Um,
I think you're saying retail for yourself in your showroom.
correct. It's just the way I define these skis is our retail side because they're ready built, ready to
See.
go. So yeah, we don't want to get in bed with any other outside retailers because then that just puts us in direct competition with 100 different brands.
So your marketing split between getting traffic to your retail to your in-store showroom versus getting purchases online. How do you go about that, and how do you find success?
So our marketing split with how we're going to try to pull people into both the web store and in person. The in-person stuff is going to be more driven around these programs like the junior trade program, really word of mouth, smaller print ads that I'm doing with local magazines and newspaper stuff like that. Of honestly get a lot of good PR in that realm. So that usually brings people in-house with that. And then when it comes to scaling up the website, it's just going to be a large digital split. So we are fishing out and trying to find more um, influencers, for lack of better terms. We're trying to find, not like the next latest and greatest best pro athlete. We're trying to find people that are kind of more of your everyday skier that can, just speak to your common skier a little bit better. And then we're going to help push that stuff through our social networks, different, SEO spends, Google, Meta, etc., to lever up the website of things. And in consideration of us having, 18 years in business, I have a pretty massive email list. That's just another, really big touch point that we're going to be touching on just to lever up with that marketing end of things.
Yeah, I bet you guys do well with emails and you have a good email retention because people are probably not unsubscribing as often as most companies when it comes to your email list. Um, but that's super cool. So when it comes to that, you're going to push that this year, and then probably within the next 2 years or something like that. I mean, that sounds like a pretty easy double. I would say you would say a good percentage of the people in the snow sports are doing like half and half, maybe majority of people are into skiing versus snowboarding, but I mean, automatically you're unlocking the same person that bought the ski you have that email list is going to buy that snowboard if they like to do a mix of both kind of a thing. So that's kind of like a plan to pretty much could double or at least give you a 50% increase in love from recurring customers. Is that kind of like your strategy? Your goals kind of next 2 years going different ways that you're gonna, want to increase your production, quantity abilities, your showrooms, and then also if you did ever want to switch over to, or when you switch over and also do snowboards, you pretty much have a really good email list, so you're able to retarget customers that typically if somebody has a set of skis, they probably also have they also have a snowboard. Um, and you have a pretty much, I don't know if it's double your revenue, right? Because you're also attacking, would say like probably more people are skiing in your area than they are snowboarding, but it might be like a 50-50 split and you already have the presence and stuff like that. So when the skiers are talking to the snowboarders, kind of the same thing. And basically what I'm saying is when you open up the snowboard, you're going to kind of have a brand new market. Um, and you already have a presence there with your branding. Is that kind of like a strategy that you have?
Lightly. I'd say the snowboard side of things is again a little bit more driven towards being able to say yes to the B2B stuff and not saying no to, that handful of snowboards that walk away from me every year. I do feel like it's going to be another slow burn to build that market, whereas it's not just going to completely unlock a new market. Even if we walk into the snowboard market as experts in the ski market, we then now need to go through a rebuilding phase to become the experts in the snowboard market, where a lot of people are going to be like, well, what's the ski brand doing building snowboards? Is it relevant? Are they good? Et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to get those curious people up front. But at the end of the day, I don't see that as being a really reliable giant, growth in the market share right away. um, it should be an interesting thing to see, but a good example of that right now is actually a large scale brand called Armada Skis. They just entered the snowboard market this year, and all the snowboard marketing and podcasts and all the things that I listen to are all like, "Ooh boy, the skiers are trying to build snowboards. Let's see how this goes." So I just want to be honest there and know that that's not going to be like a really big lever for us to pull. Whereas, like, more of the community driven stuff to build those programs, more of just having, a more price competitive retail ski that's got, 18 years of heritage behind it, that's going to sell through the relatively small numbers that we're looking to do every year. There's literally 5 million pairs of skis sold a year. We're looking to do 3,000 in the next 3 years. So, do that
Mm,
calculation of what that percentage is. It's pretty small. And frankly, as I've gone on and done more of my retail stuff, more of my signature series line, that stuff sells generally before it even hits the shelves because most of my savvy clients are already waiting for it. They're like, "Oh yeah, sweet. I already know this ski. I know it's coming out. Boom. I'll buy that one, done. And then when I want the custom one, I'll do that." So our bigger kind of ecosystem of what I'm trying to achieve on growing this is clearly I'm going to have to pull in new clients. That's clear. I got to win new business. But just building out people's quivers, skiing's just like surfing. It's just like biking. Like, you need a road bike, you need a mountain bike, you need a gravel bike, you need all these different things. You need POW skis, you need carving skis, you need, touring skis. What we want to start doing is digging in and having somebody buy that retail ski, get that bug, say, "Holy cow, this is a really, really fantastic product." And then that grows immediately from there. whether that be them doing more custom stuff or, other retail stuff. And that's again going to be driven more so on the digital side, which is trying to pull in more people. And I'm not sure if this came across last time, but the influencers that I'm pulling in are really, again, I'm trying to get people that are kind of speaking more to the common skier. I think the like, hey, look, I'm the raddest skier and I rep this brand is kind of run its course. All these different brands have done this and everybody's tired of getting fed that stuff of like, yeah, no, I'm not an ex-Olympian. I don't ski like that. So like, do I need these skis that said Olympic skiers putting his stamp on? Like, no, you just need an honest, approach to these things with some, really good execution of it. And that's where we see our greater market share growing is again that family, kind of that everyday skier, and then people just rounding out their quivers and buying multiple skis rather than just one pair.
What do you want people to walk away knowing about you if they listen to this podcast?
I think one of the things I said earlier is I really do put the client first, always. I lose sleep over that. I want every single ski that leaves this facility, whether it be from our signature series line or a custom line or landing gear for a firefighting drone, whatever it may be. I want it to be as perfect as possible. And I want that end user to utilize that product in a way that enriches their life and has them come back to us like chomping at the bit to get more. That really is what makes me fired up on this brand still is just getting those emails cycling in really this time of year. That's like, holy shit, I just had this experience on your skis. It made my trip. It made my year. It made my season. That is what I want people to understand. Bottom line is what I'm trying to achieve here. I'm not looking to build some, giant business. It doesn't work in the ski industry. You go look at all these different macros, none of them are healthy. I'm trying to build a healthy business that's going to be generational that I can either pass off to my kids or whomever the next person that's interested in. It's building skis in the USA the right way for the end user and making people get out into the mountains and have a better time doing it.
What's some great advice that you've received in business?
Honestly, so much it's hard to just boil it down, but I'd say one book that I've read that really like gives me some really deployable information, especially from the manufacturing side of things, is called the 2-Second Lean. It's really just kind of a Kaizen approach, kind of like the Toyota way, where you just get as lean and mean as possible with how you're manufacturing. And at the end of the day, um, that's really one of the quickest things that's helped me kind of change the pace of this business is really dig into the ethos of what that book lays out. Understand that you need to just be really clean and concise the whole way through, refine your processing of everything, and get it out there as efficiently as possible. And just be clean, 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 and efficient. 2-Second Lean. I can't suggest it enough. Totally changed my business.
That's awesome. We love some good books. So give us your top couple of books that you think people should read.
The Toyota way is like the architect for the 2-Second Lean. It's just a drier read, but it's really important. It kind of just is as it implies. It's the whole way that Toyota built what they built and did it in such an efficient way. That book really gave me a lot of insight into the 2-Second Lean. The book that Yvon Chouinard of Patagonia wrote, Let My People Surf, is an unbelievable read for any kind of entrepreneur. It's hard to even like drill down on what that brings to the plate, but it just gives you a whole nuanced approach to like what a business should be. And if you can hopefully get it to there someday. I can't suggest that one enough. Other one top of mind, I mean, this is less so on the uh, business side, but more just on the personal building side. Sapiens, I just finished that book up. It really just gives you a good look at who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing what you do, which ultimately helps you in business. That's a really compelling read. Uh, Let's see. Then I really fly off the tangent and just go into crazy sci-fi stuff.
Nice, nice. Tell me, you have any quotes that you like?
Say what you mean and do what you say. I don't know who came
I
up
love
with
it.
that one, but that one is one of the ones I live by. You say what you mean, do what you say. So be really careful with your words and execute on them.
Thank you so much for coming on, Mike, $100 million guest here today. Mike, give us some plugs. How can we get connected with you? How can we get our hands on some custom skis?
Yeah, man. So check us out at folsomskis.com. We're on all the major social media networks. Instagram's just Folsom Skis. Facebook's just Folsom Skis. You can always call us 9 times out of 10. I'm answering the phone 303-248-3418. Or just email in at our general questions email inbox, which is just info@folsomskis.com, and somebody will get a hold of you almost immediately.
Um, Mike, again, thank you so much for coming on. Our $100 million guest of the day. If you guys found value in this content, please, please, please like and subscribe and share this with anybody that you think is also going to find value in this content. Otherwise, all the links are in the description. Go get yourself some skis from Mike. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.